Madhav Deshpande has been one person who has provided the necessary technological ballast or the ammunition, if I may use that word, for those arguments or those doubts or those questions. And it has been a consistent refrain in his presentations on this issue that EVMs are under-designed. So how they are under-designed and what to do about it? I leave the floor to you.
Very good evening to all of you. I hope I'm audible to even the last person. I've been given just about 20 minutes to make a presentation because I wasn't not aware of the format. I probably have more material that I can cover in 20 minutes, so I'm going to skip some of those. But fundamentally, I'll touch upon a few things which are about the electronic election system, which are beyond the machine, that is EVM, and then I'll move to the technology. I'll cover those other things in just about 2 to 3 minutes to begin with, just to give the lay of the land. And the reason I'm calling it that electronic election system is because the election process starts now with the electronic vote. Our vote has turned electronic, and the election process ends with the electronic counting of the votes. So all the steps in between, sadly, however, have remained the way they were when we were using ballots. And this hybrid is also creating a lot of problems, because an electronic system, as you know, if you use a credit card, you expect the receipt in the electronic format, you expect the statement to be in the electronic format, and you expect the balance to be reflected in the bank in the electronic format. You don't expect suddenly a receipt which says on paper but nothing in electronics. Just an example. So that hybrid system creates a lot of problems. There are three essential aspects: the technical, the administrative, and the societal. I'm going to leave out all the other aspects, and we are going to focus only on technology today. We'll go to the briefly to the duties of the Election Commission of India, because I think they are severely under question today. The conduct of the election has to be transparent, fair, and time bound, because in many places elections are not conducted in the time bound manner. It should ideally ascertain by impartial means how much trust people have in the election commission, which has never been done. It should ensure that the vote is cast as intended and counted as cast. We will talk about this fundamental principle of democracy as accepted globally later on. Transparency and fairness of the election, the duty, obliges election commission to provide every proof that the citizens demand. Now, with the change in rule 43(2)(a), citizen has been marginalized. We do not have, as a citizen, we do not have any power to question or demand proof, which is bad for democracy, because in democracy, fundamental tenet is everybody is equal. Nobody is more equal. We'll come to that also later. So the Digital Privacy and Digital Data Protection Act of 2023, which is more or less a copy of the GDPR, the Global or the General Data Protection Principles Act, which the EU uses, it states that the person, and this is very important in many aspects of this, the person whose data is collected is the owner of the data. The agency that collects this data is not the owner; they are just the custodians. Now, in the terms of election, vote is the data. So the voter is the owner of that data. Or if I walk into a booth and I am filmed, it is the data about me. so I am the owner. So if as a voter I demand to see the proof, it is duty, the election commission should be duty bound even by this regulation to furnish me the proof, because I am the owner and they are the custodians. And we'll leave it at that for now. If we talk about the EVMs, the timeline is very important, because there are clearly two timelines, up to 2013 and after that. Up to 2013, EVMs were fair because they were not location aware. The control unit, there were only two units, the CU and the BU, the control unit and the ballot unit. Ballot unit is more or less like a keyboard, and they did not know where they were in India, which constituency and who was at what position. So whatever was done was stored. So votes were stored primarily as numbers, which is what is done today also. But now, after 2013 Supreme Court verdict, once the VVPAT has come in, the device as a unit, VVPAT is very aware of location. It knows exactly where it is. It also knows at which position which candidate is. So, and by the way, VVPAT is the most powerful computing chip in that three-set setup. The microcontroller in the VVPAT is the most powerful. It has enough power or computational power to do few things here and there. And we'll see what can be done. We'll skip the good system part. We'll skip these. Yeah, right. So I mentioned I'm skipping some slides for the want of time. Principle of democratic voting says that the vote must be cast as intended. It should be recorded as cast, and it should be counted as recorded. This is a globally accepted principle of democratic voting. In our case, with the EVM system, we are casting the vote as intended. The beep shows us that. The record of the cast vote is correct is shown by the VVPAT slip. So it tells us that yes, it has been recorded as cast. Unfortunately, what is counted is not the VVPAT slip. And nobody knows what goes inside the control unit. And I'll elaborate more on this as we go ahead. But the point is, we are flouting the third principle of democratic voting. We are not counting the vote as it is recorded. Let's move. Now, what are the technical problems? Technical problems are, because this is an electronic system, there has to be an electronic trace of what is happening. Now, the trace is in multiple formats, and we'll talk about that also. There is no electronic proof of data integrity. We are talking of data here. Every vote is data, and the vote flows in the system of 3 units. Now, because it takes hops, and because every hop, including the keyboard, which is the ballot unit, each hop has a microcontroller. Each hop has the potential capacity to modify the data. Whether it is modified or not, we do not know, because nothing is made public. But definitely there is a possibility, or there is a capability to modify the data. Therefore, it is important that at each hop, it has to be ensured that the data was not changed. So, for example, I pressed 3 on ballot unit, it went to control unit, it stored 3, then it said to VVPAT, okay, print for 3 and tell me when you have printed. The VVPAT has communicated when it was printed. Now, 3 units, ballot unit, control unit and VVPAT, each has a microcontroller which can modify this data. So there has to be the integrity that has to be proved beyond doubt, and that has to be electronic integrity. And there are ways which we will again see what has to be done. Please, Adish. There is no electronic event audit trail. So when you press a button, it should be recorded. When you even from power on till power off, everything has to be recorded. That's called an audit trail in electronic terms. No electronic verification of all the contents of SLU. SLU is the most damaging thing, the symbol loading unit, because we are told that it has only images, but we do not know whether it has only images or it has additional data, and we'll see what that additional data can do. No proof that the EVM did not misbehave during the poll. The proof and the standard operating procedure that the election commission has adopted is to say that okay, if it worked well in the mock polls and if it works during verification also, that means in between also it worked well. I'll give you a simple example. If you make a call and that call is put through correctly to the person you want to dial, you make another call, the next call, and it is wrong connection. So you cut it, you make third call, and the third call gets put through again correctly. Does it mean to say that the second call never happened? That the wrong connection never happened? Wrong connection did happen. Just because in the past and now it is not connecting incorrectly doesn't mean that it did not connect incorrectly. It did. And therefore the proof has to be that it did not misbehave on that particular day. That is the most important thing, which Election Commission has failed to prove so far. Even the standard operating procedure that the Election Commission has submitted to the Supreme Court for that 5%, for the second and third placed candidate, that SOP, and I have raised this objection to even to Election Commission through a letter. I always keep on filing RTIs, which I'll show sometime if we have the time. The kind of responses I get are, we cannot answer this question because you have framed your own question. I've still not been able to understand what that really means. I will always ask my own question, right? And that's what is expected. But this is a written answer that I've got to 3 RTIs so far. But anyway, that's what it is. So let's move next. In the electronic trace, what can be done? I'm going to go a little technical. If you think that I'm getting too technical, please stop me. I'll stop. Every electronic device in the chip has an ID, and globally that ID is supposed to be unique. So essentially every BU, every CU control unit, and every VVPAT will have a unique ID. Now those unique IDs need to be maintained. There is no geolocation. We use GPS every day. We share live location every day. Live location sharing chip, GPS chip, is available for 220 rupees on Amazon. It can be received in 2 days after you order. I've been saying this since September 23. Install a GPS externally on every control unit, externally, so that it can be tracked in real time 24/7. We are using archaic methods like follow the truck. Why? So that is the difference between electronic system and a conventional system. So that's what I was referring to. No device pairing. We use pairing again every day. We pair with Bluetooth speakers to hear songs. And once somebody is paired, somebody else cannot pair. We see that also. So what stops from pairing these 3 units on the day of voting and verify that the pairing works on the day of counting, so that there is no chance of anything being replaced? Again, difference between the electronic system and the conventional system or the ballot paper system. How would anyone know with this lack of pairing if control unit and VVPAT, the entire pair was replaced? Like in the olden days, the ballot boxes used to get replaced. It can happen this way. Okay, we'll go to the next one. We talked about it. Let's go. Now, data integrity. See, I said we have 3 stops: ballot unit, control unit, and VVPAT. Data integrity can be, and world over it has been used for more than 25 years now. There is something called as a checksum. Checksum is an alphanumeric set of characters that comes out when you apply a mathematical formula to the data that comes in. Data, its value, and the position of the data. So 1, 2, 3, 4, these values, and 1 first position, 2 second position, 3 second, like that, and there is a formula, and they are called, like most well known are the CRC checksum and the MD5, and that's why I've mentioned those. If you maintain a checksum at the ballot unit, at the control unit, and at the VVPAT, and demonstrate, can we go to the next slide please? Graphic. for ease of understanding. A is the checksum at the BU, B is the checksum at the VVPAT, and C is the checksum at the control unit. If you establish that A is equal to B is equal to C, nobody has any questions. Then we know that yes, all data is the same. And this is universally used in every data architect will tell you that yes, checksum is used. Everybody who programs will tell you that yes, when we download a file from an open source resource, we get a checksum, typically it is MD5, and we verify whether it is the same. So that I know that the file that I received is the same that the server sent me. We have to use that. Can we go to the next? Audit trail, I have mentioned it, so I'll leave it at that for now. See, SLU, as I said, has VVPAT is the most definitively dangerous thing in this unit, because as I said, it has the highest computing ability and it is connected to external device which is called SLU. I do not know how it looks because I have asked umpteen times to Election Commission and I haven't received anything, and I have never been a part of the election process in that sense. But I assume it will be some kind of a USB device or maybe a personal computer. In either case, it is an external device to the system. It is connected to the VVPAT and it uploads the data into VVPAT. Now we are told that SLU has only image files for candidate 1, and I'll show you graphically. Let it be. Yet nobody has till date examined the SLU for its content. So nobody can tell me, and I have asked this to several people, nobody can tell me confidently that there are no other files other than the images in the SLU, and that data is uploaded. Remember that SLU gets this data from the Election Commission web server. Anybody who has access to this web server in case of a Lok Sabha election can, sitting in a 10 by 10 room, decide what data goes into each SLU that is going to be connected to each EVM on the field. Therefore, by adding extra data, somebody who is sitting in a 10 by 10 room can decide who is going to win in each of the seats, and to some extent even by how much margin and on which booths. If we have the time, I will explain that later. Now see, this is a sample contents of the SLU. Data for first candidate at position 1, picture 1.jpg, picture 2. And this is what the Election Commission manual says, that there are only image files. Can we go up? No. Yeah. Now this extra data, date.txt, time.txt, number.txt and end.txt, we do not know whether it exists on the SLU and whether it is fed. Now I can always write a program, and I have given a pseudocode after this. VVPAT can read all that extra data, and you can't see the dates, but anyway, I have put a date 20 because it was about Maharashtra election, 20 November 24. I have put the time of 11:59, 1 and 3. 1 is the number of the candidate which is to be favored, and 3 is every third vote has to go to that candidate. That's how the program can be written earlier itself. I mean, it doesn't have to be reprogrammed, no malware has to go in, nothing. The program has been written. I'll give you an example. The program we use cars every day, and modern cars, the lights come on automatically when the ambient light goes down. The program in the car is written already that if the level of the light goes below a defined level, the headlights will come on. No new program has to be written. The data comes in from outside and the program in the car reacts to it. So if I write a program in VVPAT in such a way that till that date and till that time, it will not take rogue behavior, it will not adopt rogue behavior, it will work as standard as it is. Then no matter how much testing I do, either before or after that date, I'm not going to find anything wrong. And that is the importance of this extra data. And the other important part is it can change with every constituency. Because the SLU upload happens after the candidate positions are fixed, I can change that 1 to 3 where I want. I can change that 3 to 5 where I want. And if I know that this constituency is going to be very comfortable for me, I can replace that 3 by 5 or 6. Or if it's going to be tight, I can replace it by 2. So every constituency will show you a different behavior. More so, we see every day nowadays, in some part of India or somewhere, wherever there is uprising or danga fasad, internet goes down. What happens? How does it go down only in that area? Because the servers in that area do not service the requests. Now, if I am sitting in a 10 by 10 room and I know that, let's say in a constituency, there are 100 booths and there are 10 people who are going to go to those 100 booths, and I tell them, okay, you divide yourself in 3, 3 and 4. The first 3 will download the data between 9 to 12, second 3, 12 to 3, and the last 4, 3 to 6. I'm just taking an example. I can decide, I can change the values. First is I can decide the other ones don't get access to that, other than the allotted time, and I can change the values in between. So even in a constituency, booth by booth, the voting patterns will change sitting in a 10 by 10 room. This is the problem. Now let's go to the next. This is a sample code where it's called pseudo code because it's more readable than the actual code, and that's why I adopted this. So what it will do is when you power it on, it will check whether all the devices are connected properly. If it is not, then it will give a beep and stop. If it works, then it will initialize all the variables. It will list the uploaded files. Now where it lists the uploaded files, it will remember the number of files, how many are there. Then it will read the uploaded images, because we know that images are JPG type. So it will know how many images. It will remember that also. So if there are 10 files and there are only 6 images, it knows that there is extra data available. So my program that I have already written knows that if there are no extra files available, I don't have to do anything else. I have to just behave normally. But if there are extra files available, I have to take that data, and then the program will automatically work like that. So that's what this program does. We will not spend more time on this. We will come back if required. If anybody is interested on this pseudocode, please approach me. I'll be more than happy to discuss it. Oh, okay. Sorry. I have only 3 minutes. So this is the biggest problem. Election Commission says there are 2 copies of votes in the control unit. This is in their documentation. And I have asked in RTI, when are these copies made and how do you ensure that they are identical? I haven't gotten any response, not surprisingly, but leave it at that. Now the problem is, imagine this. Can we go to next slide and then I'll come back to this. See, the current EVM arrangement is, ballot unit is there. Voter goes, presses, votes for Apple, it goes to VVPAT, VVPAT prints Apple, he sees the slip, but VVPAT tells the control unit to print, to store banana. Now, the Apple is saved in the first place. There are 2 memory units or 2 memory storages. That's what ECI tells us. The first one, M1, has saved the right data. That's how it was pressed. The second one has stored the manipulated data, and nobody knows about this. Now, the more desirable arrangement that they should have done when they designed the VVPAT was, they should have connected the VVPAT and control unit to the ballot unit, because it has a microcontroller, it could talk to both. So that technical argument that it could not talk is not right. It could have talked, and then there was no question of VVPAT telling anything to control unit at all. So we will go to the next slide, and again I'll come back. Next. This is the flow that of information that Election Commission has published. What does it mean? Let's go to the next slide. This is again an animation. I just would like you to see. See, the control unit asks the ballot unit, be ready to receive vote and tell me when it is done. So ballot unit says, okay, I'm ready. Somebody comes, presses a button. Let's say press 3. Ballot unit tells the control unit, I have received 3. Now control unit tells the VVPAT, print slip for candidate 3 and tell me when it is done. VVPAT prints it and tells the control unit, this is done. This is the normal flow. Can we go to the next slide? When the program is compromised, can we go to the next slide, please? You can press so that we can save time, because this we have done. Yeah, let it go fast. Now here VVPAT says, I have printed slip for 3, but you say 1. We do not know what VVPAT tells the control unit. It is never documented, it has never been responded to. It can say this, and then control unit, as I said earlier, can we go back to those slides, please? अजून मागे नाही, मागेच जा तुम्ही, पेज अप केलं तरी चालेल. Okay, so we'll see that. So the problem is, now we do not know when the counting officers press the count button, are they told that you press count when the results are announced once and the display will come, and that time याच्या आधीची नाही ती नाही ही sorry he file, and we do not know whether that one press shows the manipulated data so that the result is given on that manipulated data, and if it comes to verification, the verifying officers are told you press maybe the count button twice, or result and count, or count and result, or what, some combination, and that time it shows the contents of memory 1, which will always tally with what is printed on the VVPAT. Therefore, it will never be caught. You will always feel that yes, VVPAT and control unit are showing the same numbers, but the results are unexpected. Now, is there a solution? I'll stop here, just suggesting a solution. There are so many other points. We can talk about it later. He's been waiting.
You may, in fact, suggest the solutions briefly.
Yeah. So I'll just suggest VVPAT and yeah. Okay.
Open the floor to the questions subsequently.
Okay. So is there a solution to this? Yes. Will the candidates ever come to know whether this happened? Yes. And what do they have to do? Okay. When they pick up randomly the 5 EVMs for verification, the EVM means the control unit which booth that selected EVM belongs to. Usually every booth has 2 or 3 EVMs at least. Then all the 3 EVMs should be pulled out. Once you select, let's say I have chosen EVM number 100, and on that booth 100, 200 and 300 were present, because I know that from my form 17C. So then I say, okay, pick up 100, 200 and 300 and then tally the totals. If on form 20, the candidate has a form 20 which shows how many votes the candidate got on that particular booth, if it shows the candidate got 600 votes, but this tally now shows even 601, then we are sure that there was manipulation. I'll just briefly mention one more point. There's one more point that again needs a lot of discussion and all that. See, the thing is, if we have to believe the election, and by the way, let me make it clear, I do not believe EVMs can be hacked, because I believe Election Commission is telling us the truth that it cannot be connected. Unfortunately, my attempts to ask for a ability to test the EVMs has been turned down, because I don't belong to a political party, and I don't want to belong to a political party. If it means that I can't test it, so be it. But that is the position. The point is, if we accept that it cannot be hacked, yes, but it can be manipulated, as I showed you, without being hacked. If it is a calculator, if we go to buy a calculator, we do 2 plus 2 100 times, 200 times, 300 times, every time we see 4. Even if we see 5 once, we will not buy that calculator. So even one EVM not working means a big question mark on all the EVM system. One. Secondly, this percentage thing, and I wanted to talk about it, but let's talk about it sometime later. The thing is, if I have closed the EVM, shut it off, then when I open it again, the count cannot change. If it changes even by 1, we will not accept it. We use cars which have digital odometers. We switch off the car, we see today's running, let's say 14,529. Tomorrow morning we switch it on, if it showed you even 14,430, you will not trust the odometer at all, right? So even one vote in EVM not matching is a proof that this is not a reliable system and things can happen. I'll leave the floor to Mr. Samant.
Stay ahead with our cutting-edge news app. Instantly access the latest shorts in just 1 minute and breaking news in just 50 words. Download now for a smarter, faster news experience.